Well, good afternoon and welcome to Live Impact News right here on 13 News Now Plus. 1:01 p.m., January 15th, 2026. We are halfway through the first month of the year. It is also a Thursday, or as the People's producer Nia Campbell likes to say, Friday Eve. Now, we bring Nia on following a morning trip to the dentist. Nia, I know a trip to the dentist. Is that not... Are we not talking about that on stream? I thought we were good.
It's fine. You already said it.
I know how a trip to the dentist can kind of throw things off. Everyone should go to the dentist, but it'll, the rest of your day is a little different than usual. How is everything going? How are you feeling?
I'm feeling a little nervous.
Okay.
Because I will have to get my wisdom teeth taken out.
Oh, see, now you're revealing. I didn't know you were going to go that far.
Because I'm scared. That's
Okay,
why I'm
so
a little disheveled.
You're getting your wisdom teeth taken out. I had mine taken out when I was 18. And if it helps you at all, it was not nearly as bad of an experience as everyone said it would be for me. It's different for everybody. Okay, Hunter Forst is here, meteorologist Hunter Forst in the building. Hello, Hunter.
Hey.
Tell us your wisdom teeth story.
I got all four taken out
Okay.
at the same time.
Same here.
It wasn't too bad. They put you under, and it feels like 10 seconds, and then you're up, and then you're drooling. But you know what? That's okay.
Yeah.
And you go home, and you rest. And
For how many days?
I would say 2.
Okay.
Yeah, mine was like less than a week.
Yeah.
Now, I knew some people who did run into issues, but most people I know, some of those, what do you call it? Like an air pocket or something?
Something like that.
Got to be careful, but I think you are going to be fine. And I have found that it doesn't impact your wisdom at all.
Wow, that was really good, Connor.
Thanks, guys. Thanks. Appreciate that. Okay, so that has been Teeth Talk with Live Impact News. Now it's time to move on to the forecast. Going into this week, we thought that today might bring a wintry mix. Turns out that is not the case. It is very cold, but it is quite sunny and it is quite clear.
Yeah.
Hunter Forst, take it away.
It is a cold. I was going to say cool and then cold, so I said cooled.
I like it. Creating new things.
But that's
Tell Tim about that.
That happens sometimes.
Tell Tim Pandages about that. He can use it in
Cooled.
his forecast.
I'm sure he will. I think he would like that one.
Yeah.
But it's a much cooler day today compared to yesterday. We were in the mid to upper 50s, the day before that as well. But it was a warmer start to our morning than it is this afternoon. We were in the mid 40s waking up. You didn't really have to sprint out to your car, but this afternoon I was doing a little bit of a power walk because it's chilly outside. We're only in the upper 30s to low 40s today. Same deal tomorrow, but we're keeping an eye on the second half of this upcoming weekend because on Sunday, a chance we could see some more snow chances Sunday afternoon. Not looking like anything major, but that chance is there.
Okay.
And then the long-term trend is just looking cold. No more 70s, unfortunately, in the forecast. But it is a beautiful afternoon.
It is beautiful. It's so clear out there,
It's
as
very
evidenced
clear.
by the shot that Nia has just pulled up. Look at the Virginia Beach oceanfront. Looking great. We do have a walker enjoying themselves.
Not many.
But definitely bundled up. Yeah, not as many as we've seen. One but down by the shoreline.
Okay.
So we've got some brave souls who are willing to endure the cold for some time at the beach.
Because it's also breezy outside.
It is a bit windy.
It's like gusts 20 to 25 miles an hour, so it's feeling more like the low 30s.
Yeah.
So it's a blustery type day.
I did the old post-lunch walk today, and what I found is that if you are in the shadows in any way, shape, or form, it is frigid.
Right.
But if you catch the sun just right,
Agreed. Yes.
it's all right out there.
If it's like 45 or 50 and it's not breezy at all and it's very sunny and you get a good sun angle,
Then you're all right.
I'm like, oh, it's warm.
Yeah.
But you add in shadows and a breeze, and it
Chilly.
is not feeling great out there. But over the next couple of hours, we'll see plenty of sunshine. Temperatures hovering right around 40 degrees the next few hours, dropping into the low 30s this evening. Mostly clear skies. Not a bad Thursday night, just going to be pretty cool. Satellite and radar is looking good this afternoon. Not a lot of cloud cover. And by this evening, again, sky staying nice and clear. It's going to be chilly start to the day tomorrow. We'll be in the mid to upper 20s with clear skies. but it's still going to be pretty breezy. And then by Friday afternoon, we're only in the upper 30s to low 40s. Plenty of sunshine. But any Friday night plans, it's not looking bad. We'll be in the mid to low 30s. You could catch us at the Admirals game.
Oh, that's right. Okay,
Yeah.
pause. Can we talk, or we'll talk about that after the forecast?
Yeah, we can do
I want
that.
you to expand on that a little bit. Okay, stay tuned for Admirals game meteorology festivities to come. Sorry to interrupt you. Please keep going.
And then Saturday morning's looking dry, but then we could see a few isolated showers rolling in late morning into the early afternoon. But overall, not a bad Saturday. It'll be warmer as well. By the afternoon, we'll be in the mid-50s. But here's a look at the wind chill Friday morning. Upper teens to low 20s, feeling like 20 in Norfolk, 19 in Franklin and Suffolk, 20 in Ahoskie, 20 in Gloucester. So, nothing we haven't seen before, of course, but it's just a cold start to the day. Got to bundle up. Maybe give yourself a few extra minutes, start your car early so it's nice and toasty.
Yes.
Heading off to work. But I did want to bring up the Futurecast for Sunday. This is the European model.
Okay.
Starting off dry in the morning and then seeing some light snow moving in, heading into the late morning to the afternoon. A wintry mix in that pink there.
Okay.
So eastern North Carolina, and then rain around the Admiral Sound into the Outer Banks.
Virginia Beach, oceanfront, more on the wintry mix side.
Yeah, it's on the cusp. But then we see more of a transition to all snow for a lot of us. But again, closest to that coast has that wintry mix. But eastern North Carolina seeing more of some of that snow moving in, but staying fairly light through the day on Sunday. Again, it's not looking like anything major right now.
Okay.
But it's just something to watch over the next few days. Now, here's a look at some of the snow potential. Nothing wild. The European model has been saying these numbers for the last couple of model runs, half an inch to an inch in most of the areas. The GFS has been all over the place this morning or yesterday. It was saying, 6-7 inches in a few areas. Didn't mean to do that joke. But
I did. Oh.
but
I'm going to be honest, I didn't even catch it. That was very subtle.
I
very subtle.
really did not mean to do 6.
Go ahead and take credit.
But
it's
anywho,
all right. Very strong.
Anywho, this afternoon, totals are down. They're a little bit closer to the European model. Still a bit higher, between 1 to 2 inches. But I think it would be still more on the European side than the GFS. But still something we're going to have to watch over the next couple of days. But bottom line is right now it's not looking like, a major snowstorm for the area.
Okay.
It's looking like something we can handle. Could we even see more rain in the way of snow? Certainly. If that low pressure system tracks a little bit closer to the coast, we'll see warmer air, so we'll see more rain in the way of snow. So these storms are always tricky. It always depends on where that low pressure system is tracking. If it's too far off the coast, we'll see even lighter snow or no snow at all. So those snow totals go down. But for right now, this is kind of like the consensus.
Okay. Good to know. So no wintry mix late this week, but yes, on Sunday we will be seeing a little something, but nothing that will bring society to a halt.
Correct.
As far as we know. Okay.
Correct.
All right.
And then just a brief warm-up on Saturday, maybe a shower or two in late morning, early afternoon. And then we say breezy and cold next week. Martin Luther King Day, plenty of sunshine, 40 degrees. Tuesday, only 35. And then 40 on Wednesday. January has returned.
January has returned, and we are in the coldest stretch of the year
We are.
traditionally.
Traditionally, yes.
Okay. Very, very chilly out there. Make sure everybody layers up. I had on a copious amount of layers today, and Nia Campbell took issue with the fact that I had 2 different garments with hoods on them.
I did see
She was like,
that.
it's all bunched up in the back. You noticed that too?
When you were talking to the one and only Madison Schlegel.
Yes.
I did notice you were wearing like 2 sweaters or something. And I was like, interesting choice.
Okay. Interesting's doing a lot of work there. It wasn't, thank you, it was an interesting choice. I like to take risks with my fashion. That's how you break new ground.
Sometimes they pay off, sometimes they don't.
And in this particular instance, it did not, based on the feedback I've been getting. Okay, speaking of feedback, let's talk Admirals game, a big event for our entire weather team this weekend over at the Scope.
Yeah, we're going to be doing some fun things at the Admirals game. You know, during some of the intermissions, some of us are going to be riding the Zamboni.
Who's on the Boney?
That's going to be Evan and Taylor.
Nice.
I know.
Which one's driving?
I think they're just going to let it drive by itself and see where it goes.
Are Zambonis self-driving?
No,
That's
I
something
don't.
we're going to have to figure out.
No, I'm sure there's going to be a professional driving now.
Yes, okay.
Tim is doing Are You Smarter Than a Meteorologist? So I believe he'll be asking some questions about that. I know Craig is doing, this looks like baseball.
Yeah.
But, it's supposed to be hockey.
Hockey, okay. More of a golf.
I think he's doing
Like a long shot contest or something like that?
Yeah, shot,
Okay.
I believe.
So Craig is going to walk out onto the ice and try to shoot a puck into the goal, I guess?
I believe so.
Okay.
Don't quote me on
Now, we've heard a lot. We've heard what we've heard what Evan, Craig, Taylor, Steph, and Tim are doing. We have not heard what Hunter Forst is doing at this
I
game.
believe I'll be part in, we're also going to bring the Interceptor out on the ice.
I did not know that was
Yeah.
possible. Okay, our still brand new weather vehicle, our weather alert or our weather impact interceptor.
Some shirts.
You're the t-shirt cannon.
And also there's going to be a cannon, and I might be able to hold that.
Nice. Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed.
Okay, so you're on t-shirt duty.
T-shirt duty.
All
Puck
right.
drop 7:05. Get your tickets.
Okay, question for you in terms of throwing out t-shirts. Is your goal going to be to find someone in the crowd who you want to throw the shirt to, or are you just going to kind of leave it up for grabs and let everybody fight over the t-shirts?
Fight.
Okay, I had a feeling that would be the direction that you would go. So these are during the intermissions.
If someone waves at me and they're like,
right, okay.
I'd be like, I got you.
If you're at the Admirals game and you see Hunter throwing out t-shirts, give him the look. Say, Hunter, please, I need this. I want this t-shirt. And he'll see if he can get it to you. And that's during the intermissions. Where will you guys be during the game itself?
That is a wonderful question.
Okay, wandering around the scope.
I think we're going to be tooting around.
Okay, great. All right, so you will be able to meet all of our meteorologists Friday, January 16th at the Scope, and you'll get to see a Norfolk Admirals game, which I love going to those games.
So much fun.
It's a great time. We've had a great team over the last couple of years, and maybe you'll catch a t-shirt from Hunter Forst.
And the good news is you won't really have to change much from walking from the outside to the inside of the arena, because it's going to be cold both outside and indoors.
There you go. Nice. A weather spin on it. Now, you're a Tampa guy for college. Where are you from originally?
Connecticut.
Connecticut. So you're used to a little bit of ice.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ice skate as a kid?
I did, yeah.
Okay. Did you play hockey? Any ice
No.
hockey?
But like me, my cousins, and my sisters would, ice skate. We had a few ponds in our front yard.
Okay. So if you're walking out onto the ice for an intro, you know exactly how to like toe tap your way out there so that you don't slip.
100%. I can do a
Okay.
backflip on the ice.
Okay. All right. Now, are there any nerves amongst other members of the team about slipping on the ice when you guys are doing your festivities?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Have you guys seen Parks and Rec, where they
Big time.
walk out onto the ice?
I think that might be my favorite scene in the entire series, where
That's
the carpet
how I'm
runs
kinda,
out.
picturing it right now.
Okay. We'll have to figure out who the Chris Pratt is in this scenario, who the Andy Dwyer is, I should say, in this scenario. The first to fall and then just trip everybody else up. Okay, that is going to be an awesome event. Get out to
gonna
the
be fun.
Scope if you want to hang with Hunter and our meteorology team. If people see you at the Scope and they're thinking, boy, I see Hunter on Live Impact News all the time. I love the weekend show with Madison. I really want to go say something to Hunter, but I don't know what to say. I don't know how to. What would you advise? Is there something
Hey.
people can do who want it? Do they just come up and ask, hey, can I get a handshake and a hug? Or
Hey, I've seen you. You're okay.
Okay.
But I just wanted to say hello.
Hunter, you do an all right job.
You're doing an all right job.
That is so far from the truth. Hunter does a fantastic job, as he's done again here today. Hunter, thanks for hanging out with us.
Thank
We
you,
know you got to
guys.
get home. Go enjoy the rest of your Thursday.
Thank you.
Can I throw in a quick joke?
No.
A quick joke?
Yeah.
Hit it, Naya.
Speaking of snow, right? Just think with me. You walk into a bathroom, you're American, right?
Okay.
You come out of the bathroom, you're American. What were you when you were inside the bathroom?
I know this can't be the
This is
joke, but
speaking of
likely
snow?
still American, I suppose. Okay.
Is that your guess?
You said speaking of snow, you're American walking in, American walking out. What are you in between?
While you're in the bathroom.
While you're in the bathroom. Snow. Cold? I don't know.
I know, there's no place to go here.
European.
Oh, I did recently just hear that joke. How did I not? Because you said speaking of snow, that threw me off.
I was expecting to throw you off a little bit because of the European model, though.
That's what came. That's funny.
There's the GFS model, the European model.
First of all, I want to really
I'm dead.
appreciate the guttural reaction that Hunter had upon hearing that punchline. Secondly, the snow preamble was a total misdirect.
That was
You
a
had us
misdirect.
going off in all kinds of nice, Naya. That's what I'm talking about. Polishing off our forecast with a weather-themed joke, and we'll see more from Hunter
Love
tomorrow here.
We should
on
do that more often.
Live Impact News. We'll end it with a joke going forward.
Agreed.
That means you got to come prepared with a joke.
Oh.
Well, we'll work on that. We'll get you a booklet or something. We'll go send you to a website. Okay. We love telling jokes. Hunter Force, not a joke. The furthest thing from it.
Thank
a
you.
serious meteorologist with a great forecast. And stay safe on Sunday. We know it's a very small amount of snow expected, but there's no reason not to be careful. Okay. 1:17 p.m. here. We meet back in the Live Impact News studio to figure out where to go, and a live event has just begun at the White House. It is a press briefing with Caroline Leavitt, so we're just going to head right out to Washington, D.C. here. No time wasted. Let's listen in to the White House press secretary.
Detailing his solutions to lower costs for all Americans and significantly improve our healthcare system. The Great Healthcare Plan will accomplish this through 4 common sense pillars. Number 1, permanently lowering prescription drug prices. Congress can get this done by codifying President Trump's historic Most Favored Nation initiatives into law to guarantee Americans the same low prices for prescription drugs that people in other countries around the world pay. Additionally, by increasing consumer choice by making more verified, safe pharmaceutical drugs available for over-the-counter purchases. Number 2, the Great Healthcare Plan will stop sending big insurance companies billions in extra taxpayer-funded subsidy payments and instead send that money directly to eligible Americans to allow them to buy the health insurance of their choice. Additionally, by funding a cost-sharing reduction program for healthcare plans and ending kickbacks from pharmacy benefit managers to large brokerage middlemen. Number 3, the Great Healthcare Plan will maximize price transparency by requiring any healthcare provider or insurer who accepts either Medicare or Medicaid to publicly and prominently post their pricing and fees to avoid surprise medical bills. This is an incredibly popular policy that has been bipartisan for many years, and President Trump is officially and firmly calling on Congress to get it done. And number 4, holds big insurance companies accountable by requiring them to publish rate and coverage comparisons up front on their websites in plain English so consumers and everyday Americans can make the best purchasing decisions for them and their families. These are common sense actions that make up President Trump's Great Healthcare Plan, and they represent the most comprehensive and bold agenda to lower healthcare costs to have ever been considered by the federal government. Congress should immediately take up President Trump's plan and pass it into law. For Americans watching at home, you can visit greathealthcare.gov right now for more information on the Great Healthcare Plan. And with that, we will open it up to questions. In our new media seat today, we have a familiar face, Riley Gaines. I'm surprised it took us a year to get you here, but I'm very happy to see you. I know you have a new podcast, The Riley Gaines Show. And so thank you. And you brought a beautiful baby and your lovely husband, too. So thank you so much for joining. And why don't you kick us off?
Absolutely. Well, thank you. First and foremost, congratulations to you. Being a girl mom will change your life in the best way possible. So excited you get to shop all the pink and the frilly and the bows. I was in Washington, D.C. earlier this week for the Supreme Court case. There were 2 arguments that were heard surrounding sex-based rights and if it's constitutional for states to pass laws that ultimately protect those rights for women. If the Supreme Court rules as anticipated in favor of maintaining these sex-based rights, is the administration prepared to take action against the states? I believe at this point it's 23 states that don't have those protections for women?
Absolutely. And as you know, Riley, The administration already has done so. We've taken action in a number of fronts against these states who are failing to uphold the president's executive orders and this administration's policy of simply protecting women in women's sports and in women's private spaces. We've gone to the mat with large universities in this country as well to try to fight for what's fair and what's just for women and girls across the country. So I know you were at the arguments. I listened to them myself as a woman and as a former athlete, and I think the president speaks on common sense on this issue, that women's sports and private spaces should be protected, and that there are two genders, there are two sexes. That is not something we should be afraid to say in this country. And I think, frankly, it was quite alarming to not only hear a couple of justices gravel over that basic fundamental biological fact that men and women are different but inherently equal, but we are certainly different, and women deserve such rights. We hope and expect that the Supreme Court will rule in the right way on this matter. Thank you. Gabe.
Caroline, thank you very much. A lot to talk about.
Sure.
Isn't
there always a lot
always
to talk
a lot
about?
to talk about? What can you share about the president's meeting with Maria Corina Machado? Is it underway? What can you share about that? And then also, the president said yesterday that Delcy Rodriguez was, quote, a terrific person. Does the president trust the remaining members of the Maduro regime?
I will say, to your first question, the meeting was about to begin as I was stepping out of the Oval Office moments ago, so my understanding is that it's underway right now. I know the president was looking forward to this meeting, and he's was expecting it to be a good and positive discussion with Ms. Machado, who is really a remarkable and brave voice for many of the people of Venezuela. So the president looks forward to obviously talking to her about the realities on the ground in the country and what is taking place. As for Ms. Rodriguez, the president did speak with her directly this week. As you know, he revealed that to all of you yesterday. And Secretary Rubio and the administration have been in constant communication with Ms. Rodriguez and other members of the interim government in Venezuela. They have been extremely cooperative. They have thus far met all of the demands and requests of the United States and of the president. And I think you have all seen that play out. We obviously had a $500 million energy deal that was struck in large part because of the cooperation from Ms. Rodriguez. Venezuela and Ms. Rodriguez have also confirmed that they will be releasing political prisoners from Venezuela. There were 5 Americans who were recently released this week as well. So the president likes what he's seeing and will expect that cooperation to continue.
And regarding the investigation into the leak that the president referenced yesterday, what is the administration's position on the Washington Post reporter? The Post has reported that she was told that she is not a target of the investigation. Does the administration believe she did anything wrong? And then also, what is the administration's position on the Pentagon Papers case from the 1970s that affirmed reporters' right to publish classified information under certain circumstances?
Well, since this is an active investigation, I don't want to comment on it much more than what we did yesterday to obviously confirm the investigation, and I can confirm what the Attorney General stated and the President as well, which is that the individual, unfortunately, a contractor at the Pentagon, chose to unlawfully leak classified and very serious information to this Washington Post reporter. Hence why the reporter's home was looked into by the FBI, rightfully so. And the administration is not going to tolerate leaks, especially from within the national security apparatus of the United States government, that put our nation's integrity and our national security at risk. Full stop. The president will not support that. I know the Secretary of War will not support that, and it will not stand. And legal action will be taken against anyone, whether it's a member of the press or whether it's an employee for a federal agency who breaks the law. If you break the law and if you endanger our men and women in uniform, you are going to be held accountable, period, full stop.
But
Jackie.
Does this administration believe that this reporter or any reporter has a right to publish classified information under certain circumstances?
Look, I think that we do not believe that individuals who have been given the privilege of holding a top secret clearance should be illegally leaking that classified information, and I know the American people agree with that. And I think it's a basic tenet of journalistic integrity not to publish information that could directly endanger the operational security or the brave men and women who are serving this country in uniform and putting themselves in harm's way to protect not just the people of this administration, but all of you in the press and all of their fellow Americans as well. Jackie.
Thank you, Caroline. I wanted to get the White House reaction to Iranian state TV broadcasting an implicit threat to the president's life. It was images of the assassination attempt in Butler, Pennsylvania, according to reports, with the message, "This time it will not go wrong."
I have not seen that, to be honest with you, Jackie. We'll take a look, and I'll let the president and his national security team examine that footage to ensure its legitimacy. Again, I haven't seen it, so I can't comment on it. What I will say with respect to Iran is that the president and his team have communicated to the Iranian regime that if the killing continues, there will be grave consequences. And the president received a message, as he revealed to all of you and the whole world yesterday, that the killing and the executions will stop. And the president understands today that 800 executions that were scheduled and supposed to take place yesterday were halted. And so the president and his team are closely monitoring this situation, and all options remain on the table for the president.
Netanyahu encouraged him against strikes.
Look, it's true that President spoke with Prime Minister Netanyahu, but I would never detail details about their conversation without giving the expressed approval by the president himself. Ouija.
Thank you, Caroline. Is it still the president's assessment that it would be very hard for Ms. Machado to leave Venezuela because he says she lacks the respect and support in that country? And will he raise that with her today?
I think the president's assessment that you just pointed out was based on realities on the ground. It was a realistic assessment based on what the president was reading and hearing from his advisors and national security team. And at this moment in time, his opinion on that matter has not changed.
He has also said that he would like there to be elections in Venezuela when the time is right.
That's right.
Do you have any update on when that might be? And is he committed to a transition to democracy for Venezuela?
Yes, and he is also committed to hopefully seeing elections in Venezuela one day, but I don't have an updated timetable for you today. Reagan in the back.
Thanks, Caroline. I have a question for you on Minnesota and then also Venezuela.
Sure.
President Trump threatened invoking the Insurrection Act today in a Truth Social post. I'm wondering what his tipping point is. Like, what would it take for him to invoke the Insurrection Act?
Look, that's only a question, frankly, Reagan, the president can answer. But the Insurrection Act is a tool at the president's disposal. As you know, it has been used sparingly, but it has been used by previous presidents in American history. And I think the president's Truth Social post spoke very loud and clear to Democrats across this country, elected officials who are using their platforms to encourage violence against federal law enforcement officers, who are encouraging left-wing agitators to unlawfully obstruct legitimate law enforcement operations. And if you talk to any law enforcement officer, no matter what level they work at, they want to be working with their counterparts, whether that's at the federal level or the federal authorities wanting to work with their counterparts at the state and local level. And it's truly shameful that now for more than a year, you've had elected Democrat governors and mayors who have basically held their state and local law enforcement hostage and told them, you cannot cooperate with federal law enforcement. Why? They cooperated under the Biden administration. It's because these Democrats are deranged in their hatred for President Trump, and they are holding their state and local law enforcement hostage as a result. And these Democrat mayors and governors are doing this over what? Over the lawful and legitimate law enforcement operations to remove violent criminals from the streets of Minnesota, from the streets of California, from the streets of New York, and from the streets of every state across this country. And you don't see these riots and this vandalism taking place in states like Florida. Why? Because you have a governor in that state who has empowered federal and local authorities to work together. And it's despicable what we're seeing from these Democrat politicians, especially in sanctuary states and cities across the country.
Yesterday, Caroline.
Go ahead, John.
Oh, thank you so much. My question is, President Trump has talked twice in recent days, once at the Kennedy Center and then to Reuters again last night about canceling the election. Why is he talking about this?
I believe you're referring to the president's interview at Reuters last night. I was in that interview. It was a closed-door interview. Obviously, there was not audio or video. The president was simply joking. He was saying, we're doing such a great job. We're doing everything the American people thought. Maybe we should just keep rolling. But he was speaking facetiously.
And then one more.
Sure.
On the labor secretary. She's under investigation. Has he spoken to her about this?
I don't know if the president has spoken directly to the secretary. If they have, I'm unfamiliar with that conversation, but I have spoken to the president about that report regarding the secretary. He's aware of the internal investigation and he stands by the secretary, and he thinks that she's doing a tremendous job at the Department of Labor on behalf of American workers. PBS, go ahead.
You were mentioning a moment ago about working federal, state, local officials in Minneapolis. Governor Walz's office is saying today that he's trying to get a hold directly with the president. Have they spoken? And if they haven't, why haven't they spoken? If there's a desire from Walz, as they're saying, to de-escalate what's happening there.
I'm not sure if that's a genuine offer to speak with the president. I was with the president about 30 minutes ago and they hadn't spoken at that point. Look, the president is always willing to answer the phone when people pick up and call. When there was another tragic shooting many months ago in Governor Walz's state, he spoke directly with the governor. But I would ask that the governor stops inciting the harassment and illegal obstruction of law enforcement in his state. All ICE and federal law enforcement are trying to do are remove people like this off of the streets of Governor Walz's city in Minneapolis and of his state in Minnesota. If you look at some of the individuals in this photo, these are all illegal alien criminals who came into our country under the previous administration. This is some of the most disturbing crimes you will ever read about, and there's only a few reporters in this room who will actually talk about these individuals. This is all ICE is trying to do. They are trying to remove people like this from Governor Walz's state. And so yes, he should pick up the phone and he should say that he will cooperate with this president and with the federal government in making Minnesota safer, because that's all President Trump and his administration want to do. Mary.
Thanks, Caroline. The president says he wants money to go directly to Americans so they can buy their own insurance. How exactly would this work? And can the president assure Americans that this will be enough to cover their health care costs?
So this is the second principle in the president's health care plan, lowering insurance premiums specifically and ensuring that that money is going directly back to the American people and cutting the kickbacks that then raise those premiums. So this plan, once put into legislative text and passed by Congress and sent to the president's desk, will stop sending big insurance companies billions of an extra taxpayer-funded subsidy payments and instead send that money directly to eligible Americans to allow them to buy the health insurance of their choice through, you may have heard it be referred to as health savings accounts. Whether that ends up being the actual name of such accounts, we'll have to see. Again, Congress and the White House are going to work together to put this plan into action. And then secondly, the Great Healthcare Plan will fund a cost-sharing reduction program for healthcare plans, which will save taxpayers at least $36 billion and reduce the most common Obamacare plan premiums by over 10%, and that's according to the Congressional Budget Office.
But 20 million Americans in recent weeks have seen their health care costs soar. Can he assure them that if this plan is put in place, that they will be able to cover those costs?
If this plan is put in place, every single American who has health care in the United States will see lower costs as a result. They will see more transparency. All of these proposals that are within the Great Healthcare Plan are incredibly popular with the American people, and they will impact everyone, not just a small fraction of those who are within the healthcare marketplace, but every single American will continue to see their costs go down. And I will note that they already are with respect to prescription drug prices. When you look at what the president has done with most favored nations, you've seen these big pharmaceutical companies in the Oval Office saying that this president and his team were nonstop, around the clock, pressuring us and negotiating with us to lower the cost of prescription drugs for Americans. And we are already seeing that to the tune, in some cases, of more than 500%. And that Trump RX website is something that the administration will be formally launching very soon, so Americans will have access to those lower costs of drugs. Josh.
Thank you. The president has called on credit card companies to lower the cap rate to 10% effective the 20th next week. If they don't do that, what's his what'll he do? What's the threat?
Well, tariffs? No, I'm just kidding. The president certainly has an expectation, Josh, that the credit card companies will do this, just as he did with the pharmaceutical companies, that they will lower costs for American consumers. I don't have a specific consequence to outline for you, but certainly this is an expectation and, frankly, a demand that the president has made.
And can you give us an update on the Fed? Sorry. There was some reporting from, I think, Fox Business that Rick Reeder had an interview this week scheduled. The president's indicated he's already made a selection, or at least he's settling on someone. Where is he in that process, and when can we expect an announcement? Is he still doing interviews?
Look, the president is in the same place as you all have been asking about this for many, many weeks. He's in a decision-making phase. There are a few people who he likes very much for this job, maybe less than that. The truth is, like with all decisions, it's a decision for the president to make. And he said to Reuters in that interview last night that he thinks he'll be finally making that decision in the next couple of weeks. So we will see.
And very quickly, there's been some criticism from other governments about Grok and XAI, the Twitter AI bot, and things it's been doing to manipulate images, including whether that would violate the Take It Down Act that the First Lady has supported. We've not heard from this administration on it. Elon Musk says that they disabled that, but I wanted to ask you whether the administration has a position and whether that's something that you will be pursuing, or whether the president has talked to Mr. Musk about that.
Yes, I will talk to the Office of Science and Technology, and we will get you a firm statement and answer on exactly where the administration stands. I don't want to speak on that without speaking with the experts on it. Yes.
Just to follow up on the health care plan, one of the things in the Affordable Care Act was coverage of pre-existing conditions. Is there any discussion or inclusion on that issue in the president's plan?
The president's plan that he outlined today will have no impact on individuals in this country with pre-existing conditions. Obviously, that's a continued conversation that the White House will have with Congress, but that's not the president's intention with the Great Health Care Plan. Go ahead.
Thanks, Caroline. Two questions on Minneapolis.
And then you. Go ahead.
Thanks. Two questions on Minneapolis,
Sure.
one on the ICE agent, the other on the rioting. I believe last night there were protesters or rioters that rifled through an FBI car, took weapons. We had a reporter embedded with ICE who said that she saw constant harassment all evening. Can you speak to the rhetoric we're hearing from Democrat politicians, whether they are causing violence against ICE, as well as some of the headlines we've seen, not including the full story?
Yeah, I mean, to your first point, I think I've addressed that these Democrat governors and mayors in not just Minnesota, but in states across the country are essentially, they've referred to ICE agents who, again, are brave men and women. And I would encourage everyone in this room, and I would encourage Governor Walz and other Democrats who are demeaning law enforcement to sit down and have a cup of coffee with an ICE agent or a Border Patrol agent. These are great, patriotic men and women who have families, who put on the uniform every day and are following our nation's immigration laws at the direction of their bosses and again, at the direction of the law. They are simply trying to enforce the law. And the Democrat Party has demeaned these individuals. They've even referred to them as Nazis and as the Gestapo. And that is absolutely leading to the violence we're seeing in the streets. If you look at some of the images out of Minneapolis last night, look at this vehicle. Look at what it says. It says F ICE. You have these individuals who are putting their middle finger, proudly so, at the camera. Another ICE individual, a vehicle that was vandalized last night by these left-wing agitators. People don't do this without encouragement from people in power who make them feel like it's okay. Here's another one. And I'm pretty sure this car, you can't see it, said the best agent is a dead agent or something to that effect. This is despicable rhetoric that we're seeing, and the media is absolutely complicit in this violence, because if you look at the headline from CNN, protests erupt after federal agent shoots man in Minneapolis, that is not the story, that is not the truth. If you actually want to know the truth, you can look at what the Department of Homeland Security released, which is that this ICE agent was executing a targeted operation against a Venezuelan illegal alien who was unlawfully present in the country, who fled by car and then fled by foot. And when this ICE agent tried to detain the individual, 3 more of his comrades came rushing out of a house and started ambushing and attacking the ICE agent. They used a shovel or a broom to smash his face in. And so yes, that agent had to use self-defense and take up his weapon to protect his own life. That is what's happening on the streets of Minneapolis. That's what's happening on the streets, unfortunately, of these Democrat-run cities and states where you have elected officials who are encouraging such violence against our brave men and women in law enforcement.
Thank you, Caroline. 2 questions. First, a follow-up on one of my colleagues who asked you about the president's interview with Reuters. You said that he was joking about canceling the elections, but Americans for generations have fought and died for democracy, for this democracy. Are you saying that the president finds the idea of canceling elections funny?
Andrew, were you in the room? No, you weren't. I was in the room. I heard the conversation, and only someone like you would take that so seriously and pose it as a question in that way.
Second,
Philip, go ahead.
Thank you, Caroline. Senator Elizabeth Warren said that the president called her earlier this week to discuss caps on credit card interest rates. I'm curious, would the president work with her and other Democrats in Congress on a legislative fix to this issue?
I think the president would work in good faith with anyone in Congress for a good legislative fix that would benefit the American people. And that's precisely why he called Senator Warren earlier this week on that matter.
Thanks, Caroline. Earlier, you were just defending ICE agents generally, and earlier on, Secretary Noem spoke to the media, and she said, among other things, that they are doing everything correctly. 32 people died in ICE custody last year. 170 US citizens were detained by ICE, and Renee Good was shot in the head and killed by an ICE agent. How does that equate to them doing everything correctly?
Why was Renee Good unfortunately and tragically killed?
Are you asking me my
Yeah.
opinion? Because an ICE agent acted recklessly and killed her unjustifiably.
Oh, okay. So you're a biased reporter with a left-wing opinion.
What do you want me to do?
Yeah, because you're a left-wing hack. You're not a reporter. You're posing in this room as a journalist, and it's so clear by the premise of your question. And you and the people in the media who have such biases but fake like you're a journalist, you shouldn't even be sitting in that seat. But you're pretending like you're a journalist, but you're a left-wing activist. And the question that you just raised and your answer proves your bias. You should be reporting on the facts. You should be reporting on the cases. Do you have the numbers of how many American citizens were killed at the hands of illegal aliens who ICE is trying to remove from this country? I bet you don't. I bet you didn't even read up on those stories. I bet you never even read about Laken Riley or Jocelyn Nungray or all of the innocent Americans who were killed at the hands of illegal aliens in this country. And the brave men and women of ICE are doing everything in their power to remove those heinous individuals and make our communities safer. And shame on people like you in the media who have a crooked view and have a biased view and pretend like you're a real honest journalist. Kelly.
Two quick questions on Iran. I wanted to ask first, just if you can say, how close was the president to potentially launching strikes last night, and was it the Gulf states that convinced him not to do that, as some of the region there have said?
Well, look, Kelly, I know there's been a lot of speculation in the media about what the president is going to do at any given moment or any given night. And I would say a lot of these stories, to be honest with you, I've been reading them, and they've been based on anonymous sources who are pretending or guessing to know the president's thinking. The truth is, only President Trump knows what he's going to do, and a very, very small team of advisors are read into his thinking on that. And as I just told you, he continues to closely monitor the situation on the ground in Iran. And as we saw yesterday, he had heard that the killings and executions would stop, and we have seen 800 people, their lives have been spared as a result of that. The president continues to closely monitor, but also keep all of his options on the table.
Caroline, two separate questions.
Sure.
On the Machado meeting first, what is it that the president feels that he needs to hear from her or from the opposition party that he hadn't heard prior to today, or he wanted to hear in the meeting, to be able to convince him to commit to some sort of a timeline for elections?
I'm not sure the president is going into such the meeting with expectations like you just laid out, Fran. I don't think he needs to hear anything from Ms. Machado. I think generally this is a meeting that the president was willing to take and willing to accept, to meet Ms. Machado in person and to just have a frank and positive discussion about what's taking place in Venezuela. That's all.
And on the subject of Greenland, Jeff Landry, the president's special envoy for Greenland, wasn't in the White House meeting yesterday. Can you say why that was and what exactly the role he is playing in these conversations about acquiring Greenland?
Well, the Vice President and the Secretary of State were present for that meeting, and the meeting, it was a productive meeting. It was a good meeting, and in that meeting, the two sides agreed to really establish a working group of individuals who will continue to have technical talks on the acquisition of Greenland. Those talks will take place, I'm told, every 2 to 3 weeks, so this is a conversation the administration intends to keep having with the Danes and with the respected delegation from Greenland. But the president has made his priority quite clear. He wants the United States to acquire Greenland. He thinks it's in our best national security to do that.
There have been multiple instances of American citizens being detained by ICE, and I'm wondering what the administration is asking the agency to do, or what steps is the administration asking the agency to take to ensure that Americans are not wrongly arrested?
Obviously, ICE is focused on detaining individuals who are unlawfully present in the country. And there have been hundreds of thousands of illegal aliens who have been arrested and detained and deported from this country by ICE over the course of the last year. And that's their intention, and that is their goal.
Elizabeth. Thank you, Caroline. One follow-up on Greenland. Europe reportedly sent troops over there. Does that change at all what the president is doing on this? And then a second question. Yesterday, in a Senate help hearing, Senator Josh Hawley repeatedly asked a doctor if men can get pregnant, and she did not directly answer that. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, to your first question on Greenland, I don't think troops in Europe impact the president's decision-making process, nor does it impact his goal of the acquisition of Greenland at all. To your second question, I mean, anyone in their right mind with common sense who's speaking honestly and candidly will say that men cannot get pregnant. And I think I can attest to that myself. So thank you all very much.
All right, the conclusion of that particular White House press briefing here on this Thursday afternoon. Caroline Leavitt finishing up her media availability. Obviously, questions asked about a number of topics during that White House press availability. They did announce a new health care plan, or a facet of a health care plan, the great health care plan to lower costs and deliver money directly to the people. That's what President Trump and his team have labeled this plan on whitehouse.gov. It's a broad health care initiative that will accomplish a number of things, at least in the description of President Trump: slash prescription drug prices, reduce insurance premiums, hold big insurance companies accountable, and maximize price transparency in the American healthcare system. Now, this is coming directly from whitehouse.gov. We will see how the progress of that healthcare plan goes, and we'll continue to report on the specifics of it as we learn more. But one of the things announced in the White House press briefing today, you also saw moments that I think are appropriately described as combative between the White House press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, and reporters that were in the room. One question in particular offering up numbers about deaths that have happened in ICE custody and American citizens detained by ICE led to an exchange, a bit of a more heated exchange between Leavitt and the reporter who asked that question. You also had a question that was asked about a comment the president may have made behind closed doors, or a comment the president is alleged to have made behind closed doors about canceling elections. Caroline Leavitt saying that that comment was a joke and that the president was speaking facetiously. Now, they also spoke about how President Trump has been putting pressure on Iran to stop the killings that have been happening amidst widespread protests in that country. And in this particular White House press availability, they said that 800 executions that were scheduled and supposed to take place yesterday were halted. That's coming from Caroline Leavitt. We'll do some additional reporting on that. This is coming from the Associated Press here. President Donald Trump made a vague statement Wednesday that he's been told, quote, on good authority, that plans for executions in Iran have stopped, even as Tehran has indicated fast trials and executions are ahead in its crackdown on protesters. But the U.S. president saying that he's told protesting Iranians in recent days that help is on the way and that his administration would act accordingly to respond to the Iranian government. Trump has not offered details yet on how the U.S. might respond as of this reporting. But again, Trump has said that the killing in Iran is stopping. It's stopped. It's stopping, amongst quotes that he has given over the past couple of days. And he's saying, once again, that he's been told that on good authority. Trump did not specify where he received that information, but only described it as, quote, very important sources on the other side. If we get any more reporting around killings that may have stopped in Iran, impacts that may be happening in the streets of Iran due to some of the Trump administration's actions, some of the Trump administration's statements, we, of course, will continue to bring you that information as we go. That's kind of what Live Impact News is all about. We are making sure that all of the most current, updated information is coming to your ears as quickly as it possibly can if you're following our stream right here on Live Impact News. Now, we also talked in that White House press briefing, or we also heard from that White House press briefing about Miss Machado from Venezuela, and a meeting that was supposed to occur between President Trump and the opposition leader Machado in Venezuela. We have a live feed up where we're told she'll be exiting the White House at some point soon here. We do see some people walking in that feed. Naya, if we can pull that up, there it is. As always, you're pulling these clips up faster than I can even ask. A group leaving the White House now, following meetings that we are told were supposed to happen between the Venezuelan opposition leader and President Trump. This is Maria Corina Machado. Again, the opposition leader in Venezuela, in D.C. today for talks with President Donald Trump. Caroline Leavitt told us during that White House press briefing that those meetings were ongoing to her understanding. She called Ms. Machado a remarkable and brave voice for the people of Venezuela. She also said that President Trump has spoken directly to Delcy Rodriguez and the interim government that is in the place of Nicolas Maduro after he was extracted from the country and brought to the United States to stand trial. They said that Trump expects cooperation from that particular regime to continue. So we have had a ridiculous sort of amount of headlines here in the United States over the last 2 weeks. Just the sheer volume and magnitude of the news stories that we have been covering to start 2026 has been readily apparent. A number of those things being addressed by Caroline Leavitt in that particular White House press briefing, along with the announcement of the new health care plan. This is all stuff that you can rest assured we will be covering closely as we progress through the month of January and beyond. Okay, now another story that we had that we were monitoring is the trial in Uvalde for the school police officer who is on trial after his alleged inaction during the shooting at Robb Elementary School that killed 19 students and 2 teachers. However, that trial has just gone to recess, which means that we can explore some other topics here that we were keeping a sharp eye on earlier today. Now, I am thinking that perhaps this youth committee, this tech youth committee, is maybe we take some time with that. Naya, what do you think? Maybe we listen in on that for a little bit here. We'll reset and we'll monitor our other live events. Your thoughts?
Sounds good to me.
Okay, so I'm going to give a little bit more background on what this is. It'll be quick, it'll be simple, and then we can go out to the briefing that was, or to the meeting that was recorded earlier today. Pardon me while I scroll through some of my notes here. Okay, this is a Senate Commerce and Transportation Committee hearing on the impact of technology on United States youth. So let's listen in on that committee hearing. It's something that we report on all the time here at 13 News Now, and something that with rapidly developing technology will become a bigger and bigger deal as we go, as we move forward. So let's go ahead and take a listen in on that committee hearing.
In exploitative AI-generated deepfake revenge porn and images of victims, very frequently teenage girls. Thankfully, Congress rose to meet this challenge and passed my and Senator Klobuchar's bill, the Take It Down Act, which makes clear that if you create and spread these heinous images of anyone, you'll face the full force of the law. But there's clearly much more work to be done to protect children online. Given the prevalence of online devices, children are often introduced to screens at a very young age and end up using them for a significant portion of the day. Children ages 8 to 12 now use screens an average of 5.5 hours each and every day. For teens, it's even higher, at 8 hours and 39 minutes each and every single day. Put another way, more than half of the time that a teenager is awake, he or she is staring at a screen. Parents intuitively know that excessive use of internet-connected devices like smartphones and tablets poses significant physical and mental health risks to children. Even many kids know it's a problem. Surveys routinely show large numbers of teenagers admit to spending way too much time each day on a smartphone. Kids need time to be kids, to experience the real world, not to get lost in a virtual one. This phone-based childhood, predominantly spent on social media, has been documented to lead to social awkwardness, reduced self-confidence, a more sedentary childhood, fragmented attention, disrupted learning, addiction, and social withdrawal. With the introduction of the smartphone, we've also seen a rise in teen mental health disorders, anxiety, and depression. In 2023, 1 out of 5 children had a mental or behavioral problem diagnosis. We've also seen significant increases in child and teen suicide rates. Something is very wrong. And I don't believe it is merely a coincidence, as our witnesses will discuss today, that these harms are rising alongside the early and excessive use of screens. Sadly, parents face further challenges in monitoring and limiting their children's screen time, in part because our education system, fueled by federal subsidies and incentives, has increasingly required the use of internet-connected devices in schools. Most students are now assigned laptops or tablets, often without guardrails or parental controls, in order to complete their schoolwork. There aren't many parents who think it has become easier to help with schoolwork or to cut down on screen time when schools send their kids home with a personal tablet. There's a role, to be sure, for technology in the classroom. But we should discuss whether assigning personal devices to children is actually improving academic outcomes or doing more harm than good. During the Biden administration, not only did congressional Democrats give billions of dollars to the FCC to buy personal internet devices for children, but the Biden FCC sought to bankroll kids' unsupervised internet access and undermine parental rights by expanding the E-rate program to install Wi-Fi hotspots off campus, including in school buses and students' homes. I was proud that the Senate passed my legislation to repeal this program, and I hope that the House lawmakers pass it now and send it to the President's desk. Senator Schatz and I also have advanced the Kids Off Social Media Act, which this committee passed overwhelmingly back in February of last year to help protect kids on social media, the predominant use of a smartphone. COSMA meets parents where they're at. It's a real struggle to keep your kid offline when you're told that all my friends are on Instagram or TikTok. It's incredibly hard to be the one parent who won't let your kid have a phone or social media account. So COSMA says we're going to hold big tech accountable to their terms of service. Big tech says no one under 13 can set up an account. COSMA makes that the law. No more social media for children and no more addictive algorithms for teenagers. COSMA also gets cell phones out of the classroom. No school getting federal taxpayer dollars would allow kids to access social media in the classroom. I am hopeful that the House will pass this bill, the Senate will pass this bill, and we will send it to the President's desk to become law. I want to thank the witnesses who are here with us today, and I look forward to this critical discussion about how we can best protect children and empower parents. With that, I recognize Ranking Member Cantwell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for calling this hearing today, and thank you for the witnesses testifying. Children's safety online is not a partisan issue. Every parent, teacher, lawmaker wants the same things. We want kids who are safe, healthy, and able to thrive. The real problem is that social media apps are deliberately engineered to hook kids. to keep them clicking, scrolling, and coming back, and they're doing that exactly by design. The University of Washington released a study last week finding that teenagers spend on average more than an hour per day on smartphones during school hours, and 1 in 4 students spends a quarter of their school day on those personal phones. Most of the time was spent on Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, YouTube, and video games. Social media platforms have built their business models around capturing attention, and they have become extraordinarily good at it. These companies collect vast amounts of data on children, use algorithmic targeting to feed them content designed to keep them scrolling, because for these platforms, engagement equals revenue. Dr. Radetsky, am I saying that correctly? Dr. Radetsky, you say, quote, most digital products used by youth were designed by adults for adults, only retrofitted for youth usage, and harms were recognized. And the harms are impossible to ignore, end quote. Research at Rutgers University found 20 studies demonstrated a significant relationship between social media use and body image concerns. An Australian research team recently found that TikTok's algorithm delivers video after video about dieting and exercise to people suffering from eating disorders, and 2/3 of the kids are exposed to hate-based content online. Dr. Radetsky, you found that roughly 40% of teens had concerning trajectories for media addiction, which doubles their risk for suicide behavior. We look forward to hearing more in your testimony. Study after study shows that heavy social media use is associated with higher rates of anxiety, depression, and feelings of isolation among youth and people, and one of the reasons why I sought action by Congress to do something about TikTok. Parents see this clearly. 80% say social media causes more harm than benefit to their children. Congress is obligated to act, but rather focusing on threatening E-rates, connectivity for school, I think we should be passing meaningful protections for kids' online privacy, regardless of whether they're accessing the internet from home or school. This includes Senator Markey's COPPA Bill 2.0, Senator Blackburn's COSA Bill, which updates children's privacy protections and limits exploitive design and data practices. I thank them both for their leadership. Ultimately, protecting children also requires, I believe, comprehensive federal privacy legislation that fully safeguards the children in the system and allows everyone's data to be protected. The American Privacy Rights Act that I released with former Energy and Commerce Chair Kathy McMorris Rogers would establish that standard. But in the absence of federal legislation, states and governments have stepped up. School districts across the country have introduced smartphone policies. In the state of Washington, 75% of school districts have policies limiting access to personal smart devices during the school day, 75%. These state efforts are becoming even more critical, and I know we're going to hear from our witnesses on this, as AI accelerates. It amplifies and makes the existing privacy and social media concerns even more imperative. Last week, we saw X's Grok chatbot generating nearly 10,000 deepfake sexualized images an hour, including non-consensual images of minors. It is unconscionable and unlawful that these images are proliferating. The FTC, I believe, should enforce the law, the Take It Down Act that my colleague and Senator Klobuchar led on, and Grok needs to clean up its act. Dr. Radetsky, you also highlight how children are showing troubling beliefs around AI chatbots, including that kids think these products can think and have feelings and be their friends. That is why I joined Senator Klobuchar in a letter to the Consumer Product Safety Commission regarding the safety of integration of AI into children's toys. We need meaningful safeguards on AI to address the harms they cause. That is why we cannot tell states to stand down from protecting their kids, especially when we need Congress to put standards in place. Over the last decade, Congress has failed to act on social media becoming more pervasive to harm kids. We cannot make the same mistake now that AI is becoming more pervasive. We need to address online and AI harms before it's too late, particularly for kids, and our goal cannot be to keep kids away from technology. Students need digital skills for the 21st century, for the economy, for their communication with parents, for schools to play a critical role in teaching. We need technologies and policies designed with children in mind. And we know we need that these designs can't be about just maximizing profits. I know there's a lot of agreement here among members. I hope we can work together. I hope we can move forward on important legislation. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. I'd now like to introduce our witnesses for today. Our first witness is Jean Twenge, who is a professor of psychology at San Diego State University. She is a renowned expert in psychology with over 190 scientific publications, and she is the author of several books. Our second witness is Jared Cooney Horvath, Director of LME Global. Dr. Horvath is a neuroscientist and author specializing in human learning and brain development. Our third witness is Emily Churkin, author and founder of the Screen Time Consultant. Ms. Churkin gives professional advice to parents on the dangers of excessive screen time use and its impact on childhood development. She is also an associate professor at the University of Washington's Evans School of Public Policy. Our final witness is Jenny Radesky. Dr. Radesky is an associate professor of pediatrics at the University of Michigan Medical School. She is also the co-director of the American Academy of Pediatrics Center of Excellence on Social Media and Youth Mental Health. Dr. Twenge, we'll start with your opening remarks.
Member Cantwell for the invite today. My name is Jean Twenge. I'm a professor of psychology at San Diego State University. I'm going to base my remarks on the slides that you should have in front of you. So I research generational differences. I've been doing that for 3 decades. I got used to seeing changes that were big, but they would take a decade or 2 to get there. Then around 2012, in some of the large national surveys of adolescents, I started to see changes that were bigger and more sudden. I had really never seen anything like it. So for example, more and more teens said that they felt left out. More said that they felt lonely. More said they felt like they couldn't do anything right, that their life wasn't useful, that they didn't enjoy life. And these are classic symptoms of depression. Major depressive episodes, so clinical level depression that really requires treatment, doubled among both adolescents and young adults before the COVID pandemic, between 2011 and 2019. And it's not just symptoms, it's also behaviors. Emergency room admissions for self-harm behaviors, which are linked to depression, doubled among 15 to 19-year-old girls and young women, and quadrupled among 10 to 14-year-old girls. The suicide rate in these adolescent age groups doubled over that time period, which begs the question, what happened around 2012 that might explain that? That was the question that I had when I first started to see these trends more than 10 years ago. And at first I had no idea, didn't line up with the economy. It was a big puzzle. Then I came across a poll, things started to fall into place, because one thing that happened at the end of 2012 was that is the first time that the majority of Americans owned smartphones. It's also when social media use moved from optional to virtually mandatory among middle and high school students. Other things happened at the same time. Adolescents and young adults started spending a lot less time with friends and family in person. That time was nearly cut in half. Also declined among older age groups, but not by as much. Teens also started sleeping less. The number who sleep less than 7 hours a night, which is a significant amount of sleep deprivation in this group, started to skyrocket right around that same time. And sure enough, teens who spend more time using social media are much more likely to be depressed, particularly among girls. A study in the UK found that heavy users of social media among girls were 3 times more likely to be depressed. And this is not just correlation, it is causation. At this point, there are a number of studies where people are asked to cut back or give up social media. There was one with families, so children and adolescents, done in Denmark. They severely restricted children's screen time. And at the end of that time, The parents reported that the children were less likely to have anger issues, less anxiety and depression, and fewer total difficulties. And it's not just mental health. Academic performance among U.S. 8th and 12th graders also began to decline around 2012, and the same pattern is seen worldwide in the PISA data set. So one reason for that, the use of phones and tablets and laptops for leisure purposes during the school day. As Ranking Member Cantwell mentioned, there's a recent study showing that high school students in the U.S. are using their phones for about an hour and 10 minutes during the school day, mostly for social media and watching videos. I did a recent study looking at the PISA data set worldwide, and the decline in standardized test scores on science was much more severe in countries where students spent more time for leisure purposes on devices during the school day. I think this leads to at least 4 policy avenues. 1, follow Australia, raise the minimum age for social media to 16 and actually verify age. Set a minimum age 16 or probably 18 for AI companion apps. So the AI boyfriends and girlfriends, the AI sexy chat apps. So we don't have 12-year-olds having their first romantic relationship with a chatbot. And then for ChatGPT and AI that is used for research, have guardrails. So those types of conversations that have already led to some tragic suicides do not happen. Third, no phones during the school day, bell to bell for students. And fourth, that school-issued devices are used for school, are used for educational purposes, that they block social media, that they block streaming services like Netflix and Disney+, and that they block pornography sites. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Dr. Horvath.
Thank you, guys. My name is Dr. Jared Cooney Horvath. I'm a former teacher turned cognitive neuroscientist who focuses on human learning. And I do not receive funding, nor have I ever, from big tech. So a sad fact our generation has to face is this. Our kids are less cognitively capable than we were at their age. Since we've been standardizing and measuring cognitive development since the late 1800s, every generation has outperformed their parents, and that's exactly what we want. We want sharper kids. And the reason for this largely has been school. Each generation spends more time in school. We use school to develop our cognition. Congratulations, you see your correlation. Until Gen Z. Gen Z is the first generation in modern history to underperform us on basically every cognitive measure we have, from basic attention, to memory, to literacy, to numeracy, to executive functioning, to even general IQ, even though they go to more school than we did. So why? What happened? What happened around 2010 that decoupled schooling from cognitive development? It can't be school. Schools basically look the same. It can't be biology. This hasn't had enough time to change. The answer appears to be the tools we are using within schools to drive that learning. Across 80 countries, as Jean was just saying, if you look at the data, once countries adopt digital technology widely in schools, performance goes down significantly, to the point where kids who use computers about 5 hours per day in school for learning purposes will score over 2/3 of a standard deviation less than kids who rarely or never touch tech at school. And that's across 80 countries. Bring it home to the US. Let's go to the US. We have our NAEP. That's our big data. Take any state, and here's a fun experiment you can try. Take any state NAEP data, compare that to when that state adopted one-to-one technology widely, and watch what happens. The NAEP data will plateau and then start to drop. Now, as Jean said, of course, this is all correlative. What we really want is causative. To get causation, what you need is academic research, and you need mechanisms, explanations for why we're seeing what we're seeing. Luckily, we have academic research stretching back to 1962 that shows the exact same story for 60 years. When tech enters education, learning goes down. In fact, one of the biggest ed psychologists right now, Dylan William out of the UK, recently said, ed tech is a revolution that's been coming for 60 years. And we're gonna have to wait another 60 because it ain't doing anything. Now that's research, but now we need mechanisms. Luckily, over the last about 2 decades, we've been doing a lot of work in what we call the science of learning. How do human beings learn? And we now have the clear understanding of why tech does not work for learning, and it is all biological. It's not that the tech isn't being used well enough, we haven't been trained enough, we need better programs. It's we have evolved biologically to learn from other human beings, not from screens. And screens circumvent that process. I won't go too deeply into the mechanisms, they can get boring, but just know they're there if you want to talk about them. So that leaves us with 2 options. Option 1, when you know something is wrong, do better. So we could just say, hey, mea culpa, get some of this tech out of schools, go back to what we know works, some analog methods, cool. Or 2, we could redefine our terms. We could redefine what it means to be an effective learner. I want to end with one quick story here. Think back to your childhood, to your schooling. I guarantee all of us at one point took a test on reading comprehension. And the way it looked is this. Here's a passage of about 750 words. Here are 10 to 12 questions about that passage. Most of them are inferential, not factual. They're asking you to go beyond what you just read to see what you understood. Cool. Last year, the SATs had a reading comprehension section. Here's what it looked like. Here is a single sentence of 75 words. Here is one question, fact-based, about that sentence. Next. Here is another sentence of 75 words. Here is one question about that sentence. Next. Last year, they redefined reading comprehension to mean 54 short sentences with one question about each. That is skimming. That's not reading. Why would we ever do that? Because what do kids do on computers? They skim. So rather than determining what do we want our children to do and gearing education towards that, we are redefining education to better suit the tool. That's not progress, that is surrender. So as we go through our discussion today, there's gonna be a lot of talk about smartphones and social media, rightly so. But I'm the voice here to remind you that even in schools, it doesn't matter what the size of the screen is, if it's a phone, if it's a laptop, if it's a desktop, and it doesn't matter who bought it. Is it school sanctioned? Does it have the word education stamped on it? It doesn't matter. All of these things are also gonna hurt learning, which in turn are gonna hurt our kids' cognitive development, right at the time when we need our kids to be sharper than we are. So thank you guys so much for today. I look forward to talking with y'all.
Thank you, Ms. Churkin.
Chairman, Member Cantwell and Senators, thank you for the invitation to.
Okay, back here in the Live Impact News studio after a brief look inside that hearing, discussing the impacts of digital technology on the youth. And multiple of those speakers, experts of various kinds, as well as elected officials, seem to point to the 2010, 2011, 2012 era as really the demarcation point where they started to see some real, true impacts of some social media and some digital media on youth cognitive development and learning levels, right? So they really honed in on that particular time frame, which you could probably draw some closely related lines between that time frame and the true advent of social media as one of our popular forms of content and culture. So interesting that they honed in on that particular time frame, and talking about increased feelings starting around 2012 of teens feeling like they were being left out. They couldn't do anything right. They couldn't enjoy life. Depressive episodes requiring treatment doubled between 2011 and 2019. Teens sleeping less. Sleep deprivation starting to skyrocket. So a number of different issues being pointed out by experts on that particular panel. And now we're going to come back here in the studio because we have a special guest with us here today. Dana Smith, you may know her from 13 News Now at 5, 13 News Now at 6, 13 News Now at 11, a field reporter at one point in time out in Hampton Roads bringing stories to the people here at 13 News Now. But today she joins us to talk a little bit more about what we're seeing locally in relationship to this issue with social media, digital media, and the impact on youth. Number one, Dana, how are you doing today?
I'm good. Thank you, Connor. How are you today?
No problem. I'm doing great.
Yeah.
We got 42 minutes left in the stream. I think, Naya, we've been cruising along pretty smoothly here.
Yeah, you guys are doing a great job. really hitting all of the big topics I think a lot of people are concerned about, like social media use.
Yes,
so I'm glad that
absolutely.
you asked me to chime in on this. I'm more than happy to.
Okay.
You know, you brought up some good points about how they noticed 2010, that era
Yes.
was when there was a concern. And I think that more people are growing concerned about social media use and its impact on mental health. You spoke about local impacts. So we have that new Virginia law requiring social media companies to now limit use for minors. That took effect this year. It's 2026. That law is in effect. How exactly that's going to play out remains to be seen. So Governor Glenn Youngkin signed that law last year. So it mandates platforms like Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, TikTok. People under the age of 16 have a daily time limit. So you
Yes.
can only spend an hour on those social media apps if you are under 16. That's what the law says. Now, of course, you know, just because a law says something doesn't mean that's always going to happen.
We have found, yes, in the past, that hasn't always been the case.
Exactly. So this law is directing those tech companies to use commercially reasonable methods to verify ages. So that's why if you have a child and they use TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, they may be asked to verify their age, or you as a parent may be able to go in there and set their account as a child account. So Virginia Attorney General Jason Miyares, he's calling it a balanced and reasonable approach. Basically, in response to these concerns about social media use, the concerns, Connor, is that it's addictive. You know, it's addictive. It can be harmful to mental health, especially children and teens, but really anybody.
And you bring
anyone.
up anybody. I mean, we see that with parents, grandparents, all the way down to the youth. And you bring up the fact that it's addictive, and it's easy to forget when you're using these devices and these platforms that they are also designed to make money.
Yeah.
And they make money with your attention. And so the longer they can keep your attention, ostensibly, the more profit they can create. And so it may be in the best interest of the people designing these platforms to create addiction. I mean, I think that that's a logical through line to draw in this situation. So addiction is a part of this entire thing.
So the tech industry, not 100% on board. I bring this up because you just
Right.
brought up a really good point. They're designed to be addictive, designed to make money.
Right.
So there is a federal lawsuit brewing. So Meta, Google, TikTok, they want to block this law. They argue that it can restrict access to protected speech. We're going to have to wait and see how that plays out. You know, where does that lawsuit go? Can it go all the way up to the Supreme Court? You know, we don't know. Right now, this is still in its very early stages. And we're still looking at how these companies are attempting to implement this law. So our sister station, WUSA, they have reporting where they tested Meta's Instagram to see how they're doing it. So a child, when they reach that 60-minute mark, they get like a pop-up on their Instagram saying, you've reached your daily limit.
Right.
And then what happens after that? Well, the kid can just kind of press X.
Okay. So they can just say, well, I don't care.
Yeah. So I think there's still some growing pains around trying to implement this. And it's going to be difficult to implement this because how do you know how old a user is? You know, people use fake identities for all sorts of things. And I wonder how easy or how hard it is for a 13-year-old to make an account and pretend to be 17. You know, like, how does that work?
Right.
And when you think about mental health, we now have a word for it. We call it brain rot. You know, brain rot is when you use social media to the point where it affects your ability to concentrate and your ability to pay attention.
Right.
And even as kids, I'm sure you remember this, Connor, your parents limiting screen time. That's always been a thing.
They tried.
It was, you could only watch so much TV. You could only use the computer, and that's when the screens were out here. You know, you could only use the PC for so long. So this has been an ongoing concern, an ongoing conversation. And I think recently this is when it's really ramping up to the point where the government is stepping in to get involved, because the government is saying this is a real concern that affects Americans. What can we do? So we'll see where this goes, Connor.
We'll see where it goes. And kind of to your point about how the pop-up comes up and you can just X out of it, there's only so much that the government can do in a situation like this. And obviously we don't know anyone's situation, and everybody has so much going on and so many things to tend to, but a lot of it falls on the parents. To supplement any amount of legislation the government can try to, you know, put in place to prevent these issues, Parents have to step up and do their part as well. As much as you can't monitor your kids 24/7,
Exactly.
it's impossible to be perfect in that regard, but that's certainly a part of this. And you mentioned TikTok, Snapchat, YouTube. Those are the same platforms that they were talking about in that committee hearing.
Right.
So everything in moderation.
There you go, Connor. Well
Yes.
said.
Thank you.
Well said.
Thank you. As we progress, and we're learning so much more, that's one of those things where 2010, 2011, 2012, we're just now starting to see and understand and study the true impacts of these things because it is such a new phenomenon. It is such a young phenomenon. And it's one that hasn't come without benefits, right? We have seen a number of huge benefits that come with these platforms, but they come with problems as well. Exaggerating the benefits, minimizing the problems, that is the goal, and Virginia has taken steps to do that with the Virginia Consumer Data Protection Act. Anything else you'd like to add, Dana?
That was it. We covered it.
Okay. We are hoping to see Dana again in this stream. We're going to see kind of where the day takes us, but our plan is to have Dana Smith back on in a few minutes. For now, we actually had a live feed up momentarily of a protest that's happening in Minnesota as we speak. Now, that live look has actually turned to the skies as the helicopter that had the camera capturing that footage for us appears to be navigating elsewhere. In Minnesota. This was in Chaplin, Minnesota, a walkout at Chaplin Park High School in Chaplin, Minnesota. So a protest involving students at Chaplin Park High School in Minnesota. We don't have information about specifically what that protest was about, but we know how much has been happening in Minnesota over the last few weeks, over the last couple of weeks, really since last Wednesday, and the killing of Renee Good by an ICE officer last Wednesday in her own vehicle. And now this has also led to protests in Minneapolis and in St. Paul. We're going to show you some footage of protests from just last night, and the imagery is chaotic at the very least. I mean, you can see, one, the number of people who are out and about participating in these protests, and then you can see, I mean, look at the flares and the smoke and some sort of small explosion going on there. I mean, this is incredible scene to watch right here. It really goes to show the unrest that is happening in Minneapolis and Minnesota specifically. Now, this followed another federal law enforcement officer related shooting. The Department of Homeland Security said that a federal law enforcement officer shot a person, and they also said that that person fled a traffic stop and then began attacking officers along with two other people when that person was shot by an officer. Again, that is information coming from the Department of Homeland Security. Now, President Trump also threatened to invoke the Insurrection Act in the face of these widespread protests in Minneapolis. What is the Insurrection Act? Well, it is in regards to the use of militia and armed forces to enforce federal authority. So President Trump threatening to invoke the Insurrection Act, which could lead to the right of federal authorities to use a militia and armed forces to enforce federal authority. As we know, 2,000 Border Patrol agents and authorities were sent into Minnesota before the killing of Renee Good happened. Several hundred more were reportedly sent after the killing of Renee Good. So there are already ICE and Border Patrol authorities throughout Minnesota, as you can see, again, by the protests that are on your screen. So there has yet to be a day where we have not had new headlines and new reporting around the situation in Minneapolis. That, of course, continues here on this Thursday afternoon, and it's something that we'll continue to monitor and keep everyone updated as it develops. Let's check in with some of the reporting happening with ABC News in regards to this particular situation. I'm going to sort of briefly scroll through and make sure that I have touched on everything that you need to know about this situation. We have not heard any reporting about the status of the person who was shot. We have not heard any reporting that they have passed away or anything of that nature, only that they were shot in the leg. And that's kind of where that stands right now. On Wednesday night, Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche said Minnesota Governor Tim Walz and Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey needed to be stopped from, quote, terrorism. You heard Caroline Leavitt talking about Democratic elected officials as well. Mayor Fry has repeatedly asked for ICE to get out of Minneapolis. He is the mayor of Minneapolis, has repeatedly requested that ICE leave Minneapolis. So federal officials and local officials continue to have drastically different stances on the situation that is happening there locally in Minneapolis. Now, I know a lot of these updates may sound repetitive, but it's because the situation continues in Minneapolis. The unrest has not slowed down since the shooting of Renee Good by an ICE agent while she was in her own vehicle last Wednesday. Okay, let's go to another major headline that occurred today and sort of touch on a new story that broke this morning. This is revolving an NCAA gambling scheme. Now, we do have a press conference that will explain all of this in detail, but I will just give a very, very brief bit of foundation here. 20 defendants were named in an indictment that alleges that they defrauded sportsbooks and individual gamblers, including basketball players who agreed to fix NCAA and Chinese Basketball Association games in exchange for bribes. Again, we're talking NCAA basketball games here in this particular gambling probe, and Nia Campbell has pulled that clip up for us, and it is ready to go. So let's listen in on the press conference from earlier today announcing this indictment. We have seen these gambling investigations happen relatively often over the past year and a half. As you know, sports gambling has exploded in popularity since its widespread legalization a few years ago. Let's listen in on this press conference.
Good morning, everyone. My name is David Metcalf. I'm the United States Attorney for the Eastern District of Pennsylvania. I'm pleased this morning to be joined by FBI Deputy Director Andrew Bailey and FBI Special Agent in Charge Wayne Jacobs. I'm also joined by AUSA's Lou Lappin and Jerome Iatico from the U.S. Attorney's Office. Competition is a basic element of human meaning and human purpose. Many of us, we love sports, we watch sports, we play sports because it fulfills a basic need for the competitive spirit and the need to belong to something greater than ourselves. In a messy world, we often turn to the purity of sports to cheer for something that represent us and our values and where we come from. When criminals pollute the purity of sports by manipulating competition, it doesn't just imperil the integrity of sports betting markets, it imperils the integrity of sport itself and everything that sports represent to us, hard work, determination, and fairness. And when that happens, the Department of Justice will step in to protect what is a sacred institution of American life. And that's what we're doing here today. We are stepping in, and our office is announcing criminal charges against 26 defendants that we allege perpetrated a transnational criminal scheme to fix NCAA Division I men's basketball games, as well as professional Chinese Basketball Association games. In the indictment and related filings that we unsealed today, we allege an extensive international criminal conspiracy of NCAA players, alumni, and professional bettors who fixed games across the country and poisoned the American spirit of competition for monetary gain. I encourage everyone to read the indictment, which was unsealed this morning. It alleges violations of sports bribery and fraud laws, but in its essence, this is a prosecution of the criminal corruption of collegiate athletics. And as we allege in the indictment, this was a scheme that spanned 3 years and eventually enveloped 17 NCAA Division I men's programs, dozens of college athletes, and fixed games. I'll speak for a moment about the indictment and encourage everyone to read it. It will spell out in detail the scheme. I will give an overview of it with 2 qualifications. The first is, at this stage, these are just allegations. Every defendant is presumed innocent until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt in a court of law. And second, again, I am just giving a sketch, an overview of the conspiracy. This conspiracy, we allege, originated on the other side of the world in China in 2022 with Antonio Blakeney, a former LSU All-American college basketball player and former NBA Chicago Bull player, who, with his co-defendants, Marvis Fairley and Shane Hennon, first colluded to fix Professional Chinese Basketball Association games. I presume some of you are familiar with the world of sports betting, but I'll give you just a brief sense of the concept here. You can bet on sports to win or lose, but you can also bet on games in terms of whether a team will win or lose by a certain amount, and that's called a point spread. The scheme here was the defendants would identify a game in which a corrupted player had a team that was favored to lose, and then they would bribe said player to deliberately underperform so that his team would lose by more than they were favored to. They would bet for them to not cover the point spread. They started this scheme, again, with the Chinese Basketball Association where Mr. Blakeney was playing. And Mr. Fairley, Mr. Hennon, and Mr. Blakeney eventually made a lot of money. Mr. Blakeney was a standout star in the Chinese Basketball Association. He was averaging 32 points a game at the moment that this conspiracy started. In the first game, he scored 11 points. And they didn't cover the spread. And Mr. Fairley and Mr. Hennon, who were professional sports bettors, would then wager substantial amounts of money based on this fixed game. The scheme proved lucrative. Mr. Hennon, we allege, texted a Confederate that the only things certain in life were, quote, death, taxes, and Chinese basketball. And because it proved profitable, they decided to take their operation stateside to the world of NCAA Division I men's basketball. At this point in time, we allege that the conspiracy enlisted other leaders and fixers: Jalen Smith, Roderick Winkler, and Alberto Liriano. They picked these men because they were well connected in the world of college basketball. They knew the players. Many of them were players themselves. They were alumni. They were trainers. They were recruiters. They were networkers. They were people of influence. And because of that influence, they added gravitas and legitimacy to the scheme. And they were able to recruit players on NCAA Division I basketball teams to fix games. And how the scheme worked is Mr. Fairley, Mr. Hennon, and these other leaders would bribe NCAA basketball players to the tune of $10,000 to $30,000 per game. The player would then agree to deliberately underperform in the game in which his team was favored to lose by a certain amount of points. They would then try to lose the game by more than that amount. So, for example, if a team was favored to lose by 4 points, the player would receive a bribe to underperform so that his team would lose more than that. They did so with carefully orchestrated FaceTime calls to obscure and prevent their communications from being intercepted and recorded. They recruited other players. They had players recruit their teammates. And this scheme and this conspiracy eventually mushroomed. It eventually enveloped 17 NCAA Division I programs, 39 players, and 29 games that we allege were either fixed or attempted to be fixed. I'm not going to go through every team, school, and game, but I think you all get the point. This was a massive scheme. It enveloped the world of college basketball. And it included conferences such as the Big East, the Atlantic 10 Conference, the Sun Belt, the Horizon League. It involved games against nationally ranked programs. It involved games in the playoffs of conference championships. It was a significant corruption of the integrity of sports. Once a player received a bribe, Mr. Fairley and Mr. Hennon would then place substantial amounts of money to the tune of hundreds of thousands of dollars per game to enrich themselves, to the tune of an aggregate loss of millions of dollars in fraudulent sports bets on bribed and fixed games. As we allege, this was a significant and rampant corruption of college athletics. I'll talk to you more about the significance of this case in a moment, but for now, I'll turn it over to FBI Deputy Director Andrew Bailey. Pleased to have you here, sir.
Thank you. Good morning, FBI Deputy Director Andrew Bailey. I want my presence here to emphasize the FBI's role in the investigation of a point-shaving and sports bribery conspiracy that spanned multiple years, crossed state lines, and extended internationally, involving NCAA men's college basketball programs. an investigation that led to the indictments that we've announced today. I'll take the next few minutes to reaffirm the FBI's unwavering commitment to protecting the American people and highlight the exceptional work of the FBI teams whose dedication and professionalism made these indictments possible. Over the past 2 years, the FBI's Philadelphia field office has conducted a wide-ranging investigation into a point-shaving conspiracy involving at least 15 NCAA men's college basketball teams. To date, several individuals have already been charged and held accountable. Today, as a result of the exemplary work of our Philadelphia field office, 20 additional defendants were indicted for their alleged roles in this scheme. Those who believed they could operate in the shadows, defraud the public, and escape justice were wrong. The Department of Justice and this FBI will not tolerate the exploitation of the American institutions for criminal profit, nor will we allow victims of this crime, the fans who fill the arenas, the students and alumni who believe in fair competition, and the American public who expect integrity in the institutions they love, to be denied justice. I'm proud to stand here today because of the outstanding work of the men and women of the FBI Philadelphia field office who led this investigation. I also want to thank our outstanding partners at the U.S. Attorney's Office for their leadership, coordination, and courage to bring the wrongdoers to justice. I want to recognize the critical support of all FBI field offices that contributed to this case. This case represents a powerful example of what coordinated law enforcement can accomplish. When individuals choose to manipulate fair competition, they do more than commit financial crimes. They erode confidence in institutions that bring Americans together. The FBI exists to protect that trust, and when it is abused, we act. To the honest athletes, coaches, and officials who compete with integrity every day, the FBI stands with you. To those who choose corruption, fraud, and betrayal, we will find you, you will be investigated, and we will hold you accountable. Thank you. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Special Agent in charge of our FBI.
All right, so more investigations and more scandal revolving around sports gambling. Again, we talk about how social media and digital media in schools is sort of a new thing that everybody needs to study, explore, and understand. I think that when it comes to legalized sports gambling, you could also frame that as a new thing, and that there are going to be growing pains and bumps and guardrails that need to be put in place. And we're seeing some of that come to fruition with multiple investigations into high-profile sports and leagues, and the latest one involving both the Chinese Basketball Association as well as the NCAA. So if there are any more updates on that story, we will certainly keep you posted. For the time being, we're going to zoom back in here. We're going to get a little bit more local for this next portion of the show. We're going to talk specifically about the Commonwealth because Governor-elect Abigail Spanberger will be inaugurated this weekend, the first female governor in the history of the state of Virginia. That history will be made this weekend. 13 News Now will be there covering every single angle of that inauguration. So keep your eyes on the news this Saturday. Janet Roach will be up in Richmond covering Abigail Spanberger's historic inauguration into the governor's office. In the meantime, current Governor Glenn Youngkin gave his final State of the Commonwealth address last night. Now, Dana Smith did a story for us on that State of the Commonwealth address. What we're going to do, we're going to listen to Governor Youngkin's comments for a little bit. Then we're going to talk to Dana about what we heard. And then we're going to hear from Luis Lucas in response to Governor Youngkin's comments. As is tradition with State of the Unions and State of the States, is that the party that is not in office will give a response to the leader's State of the Union address. But for now, let's listen in to Governor Youngkin.
Supply chains, where made in America once again means made in Virginia, where day after day Virginians from all walks of life are hearing those magical 3 words, "You are hired." On day one, we went to work to build that dynamic economy. We streamlined regulations by 35%, saving Virginians $1.4 billion every year by cutting the cost of bureaucracy, including by reducing the average cost to build a home by $24,000. We invested a record amount in business-ready sites and drove Virginia government to move at the speed of business. We transformed workforce development, consolidating vast numbers of disparate programs into one new agency, Virginia Works, and created the nation's leading customized talent development program, the Virginia Talent Accelerator. We restructured the Virginia Economic Development Partnership, and most importantly, we competed. We competed to win, and win we have. We've won record business investment, over $157 billion, more than the last 6 administrations combined. We've grown over 20,000 new high-growth startups, record investments that have fueled enormous job growth. Nearly 270,000 more Virginians are working today than when we started together. We have 255,000 open jobs, another 80,000 new jobs on the way from those investment commitments, along with 40,000 construction jobs. Virginia has jobs, lots of jobs. And Virginia is a winning state, and the winning continues. We announced in December Avio's $500 million plant, which is expected to employ 1,500 people. And we finalized 2 more great manufacturing deals last fall. A $300 million plant that will employ over 1,000 people in Southside, and a $1.2 billion facility that will employ nearly 300 people in Virginia's Piedmont region. We are leaving the next administration a robust pipeline of great projects that well exceeds $100 billion of capital investments and 32,000 jobs. Virginia has been on a tear because we have protected right to work. And so I ask you, please hear me. Please hear me. Change right to work and jobs will disappear. People will leave and they will take their tax dollars with them. Keeping Virginia soaring means keeping right to work right where it is. No amendments, no reforms, and no changes. Keeping Virginia on a winning streak also means continuing to work and cooperate with our federal partners and the Trump administration. Constructively working with the administration works for Virginians. When a governor picks up the phone and calls a cabinet secretary to work through issues, it's good for Virginia. Issues like turning on $2.5 billion of paused grants, attracting the Department of Housing and Urban Development headquarters with more than 2,700 jobs to Virginia, recruiting Fortune 50 businesses with billions of investment and thousands of jobs.
All right, back here in the Live Impact News studio. Unfortunately, we're low on time. Just a brief snippet there from Governor Youngkin talking mostly about jobs during that point in time. But we're going to get a wider overview of last night from Dana Smith, who rejoins us once again here in studio. Dana, you did a story on this last night. What stood out to you?
Yeah, I'll be quick, Connor.
Yeah.
But first, I want to say, you mentioned Janet Roach will be covering the inauguration.
Mhm.
So is Layla Cox.
So is Layla Cox.
Layla Cox will also be there.
Yes. I'm so sorry, Layla.
I'll be very quick. So this was impactful because this is his final State of the Commonwealth address. He recapped 4 years in office. He described a dramatic turnaround for the state. He called it a great Virginia renaissance. Those are Governor Glenn Youngkin's words. He says his administration brought in more than $157 billion in investments. He put 270,000 more Virginians to work now than 4 years ago, was his argument. He called the state a leader in manufacturing. And you heard some of that at home. A lot of that applause was when he was talking about jobs. Education was another focus. He highlighted teacher pay increases and bonuses, parent choice legislation allowing parents to opt out of face masks for their kids, to opt out of any material they believe is sexually explicit. He talked about public safety efforts, drops in murder rates, tougher penalties for fentanyl dealers. These were some of his highlights. He really took his time going through all of them. I'm trying to be quick here. He also encouraged the incoming Spanberger administration to work collaboratively with President Donald Trump's administration. You know, he mentioned, Connor, how it's important for local governments, state governments, and the federal government to work together. And I thought was interesting, he advised against, quote, driving away data centers. I have the quote in front of me. He said, the positive economic contribution from data centers is enormous. This is interesting and timely because, as I'm sure you remember, that petition that circulated in Newport News, it got more than 2,000 signatures opposing a data center. The concern was the usage of water, the usage of electricity, and whether energy costs would be passed on to residents. It got to the point where the vice mayor of Newport News, Connor, had to speak up and say the city has no plans to build a data center. So it's interesting that the governor, on his way out, he's obviously paying attention to these conversations and these concerns. And his position is that data centers are good for the economy. So it's going to be interesting, something we're going to have to watch, especially on that data center front, to see kind of what happens. But on his way out, recapping his accomplishments, but also advising the Spanberger administration a little bit to keep the momentum going and giving his opinion of what he thinks should happen.
Yeah, we'll see what keeps going. We'll see what changes. You mentioned Newport News. Chesapeake also has been central to the data center discussion here in Hampton Roads. At one point, the city council voting unanimously to reject the rezoning of a piece of land in order to accommodate a data center. So and naturally, people in those communities concerned about something new and something that we do not have a lot of experience with. We'll see how Virginia sort of tracks when it comes to data centers. Now, in terms of the response from the opposition party, that would be Luis Lucas, one of our representatives from right here in Hampton Roads, recording a response to Governor Youngkin. Let's listen into that right now.
Luis Lucas, representing the 18th Senatorial District. I serve as President Pro Tem of the Senate of Virginia and Chair of the Senate Finance and Appropriations Committee. Tonight, as protocol requires, we listened to Governor Glenn Youngkin's final State of the Commonwealth address. Now let me be crystal clear about what we heard. He said Virginia is thriving. What he didn't say is that families are barely surviving. He said Virginia is the best state for business. What he didn't say is that our ranking dropped last year to number 4 while Virginia federal workers got shoved out of their jobs. He said parents first. What he didn't say is that test scores failed while he was busy fighting cultural wars. He said he worked across the aisle. What he didn't say is that he vetoed progress and bipartisan bills. Youngkin wants to leave behind a legacy. But listen up, Glenn. The only thing you're leaving behind is a mess. And now Democrats will have to clean up your mess. We cannot spin failure into success, and we're not going to applaud for 4 years of chaos just because you're packing up your office. Virginia dropped to number 4, not because Virginia stopped working, not because our talent dried up, but because Virginians' federal workforce got crushed by Trump's policies and reckless federal cuts. Let's talk about what Glenn Youngkin and Virginia's outgoing Attorney General allowed to happen when DEI protections were attacked. At Virginia Military Institute, the first black superintendent was forced out due to political pressures. At the University of Virginia, the president was forced out not because he failed students, but because he refused to bow down to Trump's political demands. And now, George Mason, VMI, UVA, all caught in investigations and chaos. And when the General Assembly said no to Youngkin's board schemes, he tried to pull unconstitutional nonsense anyway. But Virginia Democrats didn't fold. We said the Constitution is the Constitution, and the Virginia Supreme Court agreed with us. Now let's talk about health care, because this is where it gets deadly serious. Youngkin tried to strip out a safety net Democrats put into the budget, because without these safeguards, even a small federal cut could put more than 600,000 Virginians at risk of losing health care coverage. And what did Glenn Youngkins do? Not a damn thing. Glenn didn't create a win in Virginia. He didn't pour into Virginia vision. He rolled back protections that made us the leaders in climate change. Strong public schools, a responsible safety net, and Medicaid expansion. And let's not forget this one. He tried to create $50 million private school voucher scheme, ripping money from public schools to benefit wealthy families. Private schools can pick who they want, teach who they want, teach what they want, reject who they want. And that is not where public school dollars belong. So here's the truth. We're moving on. We're moving to a better future. We're moving to a brighter future. And we're moving to a more inclusive future. We're focused on affordability, more money in the pockets of Virginians. And we are focused on future opportunities through higher education standards and strong public schools. And yes, Governor-elect Abigail Spanberger and a Democratic trifecta can't come soon enough. Youngkins is out of touch, tired, outdated, and he's out the back door. And soon enough, Trump will be also. So tonight, we listen to him talk, but who believes him? Because the record is clear. The damage is real. And the people watching at home, this part is for you. If you have felt ignored, dismissed, or used as a political prop, if you watch leaders play games while your bills went up, just know this. Virginia is not powerless, and we're not stuck. These damages ran rampant in Virginia, and tonight it stops. Virginia Senate Democrats will keep fighting for working families, defending your freedoms, strengthening our Commonwealth until success is within reach for every Virginian family. And you can take.
So that's Senate President Pro Tem Louise Lucas in a response to Governor Glenn Youngkin at painting a very different picture of Virginia when you contrast their two positions there. So Lucas pointing out families are struggling with rising costs and affordability. And she also mentioned Virginia's business ranking drop. So I want to talk about that, Connor, because she mentioned it slipped to number 4. And that's interesting because Virginia last year was number 1. This is the CNBC business ranking. Virginia was number 1, and it held that dominant spot. And now it's down to number 4. North Carolina's number 1. And this is the lowest ranking since 2018 for Virginia. And that's the point that Louise Lucas is making, is that while Governor Glenn Youngkin is touting these business investments and this job creation, Louise Lucas is pointing out that certain policies have meant that it is tougher to do business in Virginia today than it was in previous years.
Yeah, and the proof is in the data. When we talk about rankings, those are numerically based as far as we know, right? I mean, that's based on, what, dollars in and out, things of that nature, businesses who are able to lay down roots here. Okay, great extra information from Dana. Dana, I'm wondering, have you ever covered an inauguration?
I have.
Which did you cover?
This was... I want to say Youngkin.
Okay.
I want to say it was Glenn Youngkin 4 years ago.
Give us a feel. What is that day like?
A lot of pomp and circumstance.
Yeah.
It's very ceremonial. You're not going to expect a lot that's new. So it's not going to be any sort of big bombs being dropped, as, oh, that's what's going to happen. She's just going to reiterate the same plan that she has laid out in the lead up to her campaign win. So she is focused on affordability, so we can expect her speech to be centered around affordability. You can expect, of course, the parade. You can expect, the General Assembly to be there. It's similar to a State of the Commonwealth address, but just a little different. It's going to be looking forward, laying out priorities, laying out plans. And like I said, very ceremonial, not necessarily any big announcements.
Right. This is not a place where real work is being done and legislation is being created and
Not
debate
yet.
is happening. Not yet. That will come tomorrow, a ceremony to officially inaugurate our new governor. Cold, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Very cold. It always comes in mid-January,
Right.
freezing, but our team will be there working hard to bring you everything you need to know. And this team is actually done for today. Live Impact News has reached its conclusion, 2:58 p.m. We want to thank everybody for hanging with us this week. We know that this has been a very chaotic and busy 2 weeks. Sometimes the news can be difficult to listen to, but we want to make sure that in those times we are even more steadfast with the information that we provide every single day here on Live Impact News. So thanks for sticking with us. And as always, we want to see if the People's producer, Nia Campbell, has any last words to add to the proceedings.
No last words.
No last words. We start the show with Hunter Force. We end with Dana Smith. Thanks to all our special guests, and especially thanks to you for watching. We hope to see everybody next time.